Fairy Tales by Wendy Barker. Our first trip to Powell River in 1980 was a visit with friends who were doing summer coverage at the United Church. They took us to Willingdon Beach for a picnic lunch, and our children were enthralled with the giant Popeye, olive oil, and Bluto figures along the stream there. Later that evening, the last ferry took us back to Vancouver Island along a path of rippling band of watery moonlight, and it seemed we had been to a magical dreamland. 15 years later, my husband's job took him to Powell River. He stayed in a short-term rental while I saw our younger two children through their last couple of months of the school year and organized the transition of a new person into my job in Port Alberni. I took a day trip to Powell River in June to discuss school placements for our two boys and to have a first look at the community through a house hunting lens. Before leaving home, I had done a cursory review of the ferry schedules. It seemed that the 4 daily ferries left Powell River at 1:15 the hour, 8:15, 12:15, 5:15, and 9:15, or so I thought. I was a little surprised when I approached the ferry terminal that evening at 10 minutes to 9 and saw the ferry lot looking quite empty. The man at the booth asked whether I was going to Texada, and when I told him Comox, he shook his head sadly. "Ma'am, that's your boat out there, heading west." Oh dear. Well, I had to go back to the driveway of the house that Alan was renting and wait for him to return from an evening meeting. Of course, because I was expecting it to be a day trip, I had not packed anything. Alan lent me a t-shirt for bedtime, said on it, "Real men don't ask for directions," and we commiserated over a cup of tea. The house he was renting was totally infested with rats, one of the joys of being near the sea, and we heard them scurrying around all night. Worse, there was a hole in the wall just beside the toilet, so there was no lingering there through that business while keeping a watchful eye over my shoulder. Since that night, I've been quite conscious of checking the ferry schedule before any trips out of town. Most of my ferry trips have been pleasant little interludes where I can sit and read a book or knit or just daydream and still be getting somewhere. We did have one really rough ride during our first year in Powell River. We were crossing during one of the Salish Sea's wild and windy winter storms. The old ferry bounced and crashed while the waves smashed against the front windows and spiraled down the side decks. Everyone was sitting tight and tense. Suddenly, an authoritative voice boomed over the intercom. "Will the 2 boys on the front deck please get inside immediately?" We looked at each other, wondering who on earth would even consider going out there. Just then, in came our 2 sons, totally drenched and looking a bit sheepish. I guess they were learning more about life on the coast.